Someone here in the room gave me this antique, there it is right there, thank you, gave me this antique shamrock pen. Thank you so much. From Rochester Hills, Michigan. Well, that's one. And you have a little green on. Do you have anything but green on tonight? No, don't show us. Thank you so much for the pin, and we'll give it back to you before the evening is over. Okay, good. All right. Well, I brought, as you can see, a very special guest with me tonight. And, you know, I probably saw her in elementary school, but I would not have known that I saw her because she was in 2nd grade and I was in the 4th grade. You know, you don't look down that far. Right? So, but when she was a sophomore in high school, I noticed. We were at a party together at a friend's house, and I saw her there. I was very taken. I went, we chatted a bit, and then I went to the fellow she came with. And I said, say, I live closer to Ann than you do. Can I give her a ride home for you? And he said, sure, and we've been going steady ever since. So my sweetheart, Ann Romney.
Woo! Yeah! Good to see you.
Well, this is a great audience. I will tell you, we just came from Puerto Rico.
Woo!
And we just couldn't wait to come up here to Illinois. Mitt was trying to decide whether he was going to leave me there or not, and he said, Ann, get on the plane and come up with me and say hi to some folks. You know, there's so many contests going on across the country right now, and you've got a big one coming up on Tuesday. And we're looking forward to getting some support in Illinois and giving Mitt the energy and the boost that he needs to get him one step closer to defeating Barack Obama. Yeah! When I said something to Mitt, which it was quite shocking to him for him to hear this come out of my mouth, because 4 years ago I said something quite distinctly and emphatically. I said, after bowing out of that last race, guess what, sweetie? I'm never doing that again. And he laughs and he goes, you say that after every pregnancy. I mean it after every pregnancy too, and I do have 5 boys. But what happened and what made me change my mind? Because guess what? I know exactly what a campaign trail is about. I know exactly how tough it is on families. And by the way, congratulations to all the families that are going through this. Our heart goes out to everyone that's on this road, and it's a tough road. And but what changed? And I turned to Mitt and I said, do you know what? I'm fed up. I'm really upset. I see our country going in the wrong direction. I see a president that doesn't understand how important it is that we restore America to the principles that made it great. I am so upset about the deficit spending. I don't want to leave my children with a legacy of debt. So I said, Mitt, I hate to tell you this, but you're the only one that can fix it, so you better go do that. And that's what we're going to hear him talk about now. So we're excited about getting this country back on track, to leaving our children the kind of country we inherited. We have got no time left. It's now or never. And that's why we need all your help to get us going and to let us defeat Barack Obama. So thank you.
Also, other news, and that is that Congressman Shipkus endorsed my campaign today.
Yeah.
He's a solid conservative, and his conservative credentials and his support of my campaign mean a great deal to me. I know there's another gentleman here who's running for Congress. Is that right?
My son is.
Your son? Oh, I thought you were running. Your son is. Tell us his name so we can give him credit.
Jason Plummer.
There we go. Rutherford. This state treasurer you have is well, he's a treasure. This guy is absolutely extraordinary. His enthusiasm, his passion, his loyalty, and friendship mean a great deal to Ann and me. I know his professionalism is why you hired him, But those other features are things that are endearing to me, and I appreciate his leadership in my campaign. He's gotten me signed up the delegates in the various communities, get the signatures. He's done the work, and I appreciate his help. I know why he did it. Just like why Ann said we had to get in the race and why you're here tonight. And that is because you're concerned about the country. I can tell you that I didn't expect to be doing this, going around the country, meeting people. The good news is you come away more optimistic about America. If all you do is watch the news at night, it can be a little discouraging. Because the people who make the news are by and large people doing, well, not real nice things. Otherwise it wouldn't be news. And so I get to see everyday Americans living our lives in the ways we do. And it comes away as an encouraging thing to see entrepreneurs of various kinds beginning businesses. I saw a father who left his job with an advertising agency and began making amplifiers for guitars in his home with his son. Hired a couple of people. Then the Obama economy hit. He had to lay off a couple of people, but kept making the guitars in his home and makes a living. I saw another guy working for a city, and he decided to leave the work for the city and to start a landscaping business. And he's got, I think, over 100 people that work in his landscaping business. I see entrepreneurs of all kinds building the economy and doing their best to make their life brighter and to hire other folks and give them jobs. I also see people having a hard time, though. We got 24 million Americans that are out of work or underemployed. 24 million. We've got home values have gone down, of course. At the same time, the median income in America has dropped by 10% in the last 4 years. This is not the way President Obama had promised it. This is very different than what he promised. When he ran for office, you remember, he said he was going to get this economy turned around. He said if he couldn't turn it around in 3 years, he'd be looking at a one-term proposition. We're here to collect, all right? He also said that he would cut taxes for middle-income taxpayers. Didn't do that. He said he would cut the deficit in half. And instead he's doubled it, more than doubled it. And just announced, I think just today, the CBO scored his budget for the year after this one, another $1 trillion deficit. This can't go on forever. That old expression, what can't go on forever, won't. There's truth in that. We will ultimately hit the kind of wall Greece has hit if we continue on this path. He has broken one promise after the other. And I'm fond of saying he's out of ideas, he's out of excuses, and in 2012 we'll make sure he's out of office. There's one promise he's kept, however, and that is, you may recall, as candidate Obama, he said he wanted energy prices to go up a lot. He said they were going to skyrocket, was the term he used. He said he wanted gasoline prices to go up. And so he hired a team of people to help him implement that strategy. Secretary Chu of the Energy Department. He said he wanted gasoline prices to get up as high as those in Europe, which are about, what, $8 or $9 a gallon. And then Secretary Salazar. He said he wouldn't give drilling, he's the Secretary of the Interior. He's the one that gives the permits to companies that are drilling in the Gulf or the Outer Continental Shelf. He said, look, I'm not going to give permits even if gasoline gets as high as $10 a gallon. And then there's one more. What is her name? Administrator Jackson of the EPA. She was hoping to put in place a cap and trade program, as you know, where you raise the cost of gasoline and energy through that kind of a program. Congress voted no on that. And so, as the Wall Street Journal has pointed out, she's trying to create the same kind of increase in pricing by regulation, by making it harder and harder to get coal from the ground, making it harder and harder to use coal, making it less reliable in terms of getting our natural gas out of the ground, which at some point can be used as a transportation fuel, making it harder to get oil out of the ground from places like North Dakota. And so these three, this trio of his energy team, have been working like crazy to drive up the price of gasoline. And that's just what they've done. Now the president has now endured what we might call an election year conversion. With people suffering and with his numbers collapsing in the polls, He's looking for something to do, and so he's saying, oh, now he's for lower gasoline prices. Well, I'm glad. I'm not sure we can count it being a true conversion, but I'm glad at least he's saying it. But given the fact he's changed his policy, given the fact he now wants lower gasoline prices, I think it's time for him to fire his gas hike trio. It's time for those three to be let go and return the policies of gas energy relief. The gas hike trio ought to resign. They really ought to turn in their resignations. They were hired to raise the cost of gasoline, and now their president says he wants to lower it. Given that's the new direction, their expertise is not in lowering the price of gasoline. Their expertise was in raising it. So if I were them, I'd simply turn in my resignation. That's what they should do. And if they don't, he should fire them. This is time for us to have, in this country, for the first time in a long time, an energy policy. An energy policy that says we're going to take advantage of the resources we have in this country. The president says, oh, we have only 2% of the oil reserves in the world. Well, we haven't been looking very hard, because there's a lot more out there. There's a lot more in North Dakota, in the Outer Continental Shelf, in the deep waters of the Gulf. We have a lot more oil we can take advantage of. And our natural gas as well can be used in transportation and energy. And coal. We got the world's largest reserves of coal. Let's use our coal as well. And it's rare that a president gets to make a no-brainer decision, one that takes no thought at all. But he flunked. And this no-brainer decision I'm talking about is this decision not to have a pipeline from Canada bringing in that oil. I will certainly bring in the Keystone Pipeline and take advantage of those energy I'm going to say just a couple things more. The course that we take in this country is going to be defined by the choice you make in the next couple of days, and the choice that gets made in November. We're going to have as a nominee, I hope, me. I hope it's someone who... The problem the president had, the reason that he's so misguided on energy policy, the reason he doesn't understand how much it's hurting people to have gasoline prices like this, is that he never really had a job in the private sector. He hasn't been out doing what you've done. I think that to create jobs, it helps to have had one. And I have. All across this country, there are moms that don't know how they're going to afford to take their kids to school and to soccer practice and to the other responsibilities they have. And there are people who are working a couple of jobs and trying to drive between those jobs, and if they look at the price of gasoline, they ask themselves whether it's worth even going to work. Because after they paid for the gasoline and the oil and the maintenance on the car, it's just kind of a break-even proposition. I was with one teacher in Missouri last week, and she said, in fact, she said, look, I was laid off, and she said, when I consider the cost of gasoline to get to the temporary teaching jobs I could accept, there's just not enough left over for me to go back to work. And so she stays on unemployment, in part because of the high cost of gasoline. She's got 2 kids at home, and she has a responsibility for them. Look, the president doesn't understand these people are suffering, in part because he's an economic lightweight. He really did. You know, he spent his time, I know, in the faculty lounge, you know, at Harvard or wherever, and they all sit around talking about how things ought to work, but they don't work that way. In the real world, where you're living, you understand how the economy affects you and what decisions that are made will have what impact